According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, Ambassador Zyl'ax, the human delegation's entry still hasn't cleared quarantine, and we're legally required to begin the challenge in 8 minutes. Zyl'ax's tertiary lung sacs collapsed in what his species considered a profound expression of distress. Through the reinforced observation deck, he could see the Krell'ix Vex'tor pacing its containment field. 12 feet of crystalline talons, acid-dripping mandibles, and a kill record that spanned 10,000 years of undefeated evolutionary dominance. Khor'vax, the Krell'ix warrior responsible for bringing the monstrosity, stood beside it with his arms crossed, radiating smug superiority. "Delay," Zyl'ax said, his vocal membranes quivering. Cite environmental calibration discrepancies, atmospheric variance concerns, something. "We've already used those excuses twice," his aide Janira whispered urgently. "The other delegations are getting suspicious. The Vrix brought their bone render. The Salthani transported their void screamer. Every species has presented their homeworld's apex predator except Earth, and—" "I'm aware." Zyl'ax pressed 2 of his 4 hands against the observation glass. In the holding cells below, creatures that could level cities in their native environments prowled and shrieked behind military-grade containment shields. The annual Intergalactic Diplomacy Challenge had seemed like such a straightforward tradition when he'd first learned of it. Each species demonstrates their world's natural selection pinnacle, a symbolic showing of evolutionary strength and survival capacity. Then Earth had joined the galactic community. "Sir, if I may, why are we so concerned about what Earth sends? Surely their entry can't be worse than what's already down there." Zyl'ax turned 3 of his eye stalks toward his aide. "Janira, humanity once made a recreational activity out of riding their apex predators for entertainment. Their children do it at birthday celebrations. The creatures that should by all evolutionary logic dominate them are instead kept as pets, working animals, and amusement park attractions. But they have a saying, fuck around and find out. I've spent 2 years studying human linguistics, and I still don't fully understand the nuanced threat matrix contained in those 6 words, but every species that's ignored it has regretted the experience." On the main floor, Khor'vax was making a show of feeding his Vex'tor a whole Grenthian battle boar. The apex predator tore through reinforced bone and bioarmor like it was paper. The other delegations shifted nervously. 5 minutes, Ambassador. Zyl'ax was about to invoke emergency medical protocols, fake a diplomatic illness, perhaps trigger a false radiation leak when the main entrance doors slid open. A human walked in. She was approximately 70 standard years old by his estimation, barely 5.5 feet tall, with silver hair pulled into what humans called a bun. She wore a floral print dress, sensible shoes, and carried a broom in one hand and a handbag in the other. She looked around the massive ceremonial chamber with mild interest, like someone who'd wandered into the wrong conference room. "Oh dear," she said, her voice carrying surprising clarity in the cavernous space. "Is this the diplomacy challenge? I think I might have come in through the wrong door. These stations are so confusing." Security personnel immediately moved to intercept her. "Ma'am, this is a restricted—" "Patricia Anderson," she said, adjusting her handbag on her shoulder. "Earth delegation." "Sorry I'm late. The shuttle had to reroute around some solar flare, and then I couldn't find where they'd put my broom. Always bring your own cleaning supplies to these events, I say. You never know what standards they'll have." The entire chamber fell silent. Zyl'ax felt his primary heart skip a full cycle. "There's been a mistake," he said, his voice hoarse as he rushed down from the observation deck. "The Earth delegation entry. We're expecting a biological specimen, a creature, an apex predator." "Oh, that's me, dear," Patricia said, giving him a patient smile that somehow made his defense membranes want to retract. "I'm Earth's entry." "That's impossible," Khor'vax bellowed from across the chamber, his Vex'tor snarling in response to his anger. Now, this is an insult, a mockery of sacred tradition. Where is Earth's true apex hunter? Patricia turned to look at him, and something in her expression made the Krell'ix warrior take an involuntary half-step backward. "Young man," she said, and somehow those two words carried more weight than military proclamations. "I taught 7th grade mathematics for 40 years in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've broken up fights between boys twice your size, confiscated contraband from children who thought they were clever, and maintained order in a room of 30 hormonal pre-teenagers without raising my voice." She shifted her broom to her other hand. "I am exactly the apex predator Earth sent." The silence that followed was so profound that Zyl'ax could hear his own circulatory systems pulsing. This must be psychological warfare," Janira whispered beside him. "Some kind of human trick." But Zyl'ax was staring at Patricia Anderson, at her posture, her unshakable calm, the way every delegate in the room was suddenly uncertain despite her complete lack of physical threat, and feeling a cold certainty settling into his consciousness. Humanity had done it again. They'd found a way to make the utterly mundane absolutely terrifying, and no one had seen it coming. "Ambassador," the Challenge Master Jataro said, his voice tight with barely controlled panic, "do we proceed?" Zyl'ax looked at Patricia, who was now pulling a pair of reading glasses from her handbag and glancing around as if looking for somewhere comfortable to sit. "Yes," he said, though every instinct screamed that this was a catastrophically bad idea. "We proceed. May the stars have mercy on us all." Patricia smiled pleasantly and asked if anyone knew where she might find a decent cup of tea. "Mrs. Anderson," Zyl'ax said, trying to keep his voice diplomatic despite the panic clawing at his reasoning centers, "I believe there's been a miscommunication with your government. The diplomacy challenge requires each species' apex predator, the creature at the top of your homeworld's food chain. Surely Earth has bears, great cats, those creatures you call sharks?" Patricia gave him a look over her reading glasses that made him feel like he'd just asked why he hadn't completed his homework. "Young man," she said, her tone patient but with an edge that suggested her patience had limits. "I taught middle school for 40 years. 7th grade. Do you know what 7th graders are?" She didn't wait for an answer. They're small humans who've just discovered hormones, sarcasm, and the belief that they're smarter than every adult in the room. I maintained order among 30 of them at a time, 5 days a week, 9 months a year. She adjusted her handbag. "I am the predator." A ripple of laughter spread through the observation galleries. The Vrix delegation was chittering in their seats. Even some of the Salthani were making their species equivalent of amused sounds. Khor'vax slammed one massive fist against the arena barrier, the impact reverberating through the chamber. "This is an outrage. Earth mocks the sacred tradition. They insult every species here by sending this. He gestured at Patricia, searching for words. "Grandmother?" Patricia supplied helpfully. "Yes, dear, that's exactly what I am. I have 6 grandchildren, and I'll thank you not to take that tone with me." Something happened to Khor'vax's expression. The righteous anger flickered, replaced briefly by something that looked almost like guilt. He opened his mouth, closed it, then seemed to forcibly reassert his fury. "The Council must disqualify Earth for this insult." "Now wait just a minute," Patricia started, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 5 degrees. She set down her handbag with the deliberate precision of someone who was about to make a point. "I took 3 different shuttles to get here. I had to leave my book club early, and I certainly didn't come all this way to be told I'm not qualified." She fixed Khor'vax with a stare that had made countless students confess to crimes they'd almost gotten away with. "Where exactly do I need to go to demonstrate my capabilities?" Khor'vax actually took a step backward. Challenge Master Jataro cleared his throat nervously. The combat arena. Standard protocol involves entering the containment field with one of the other species' apex predators. The demonstration continues until dominance is established through... "Is there at least somewhere I can sit?" Patricia interrupted, already heading toward the arena entrance. My knees aren't what they used to be. And do you have tea? I was told there would be refreshments. The refreshments are for after, Jotaro began. Well, that seems poorly planned, Patricia said. What if someone gets thirsty? Zyl'ax's aide Janira leaned close. Sir, is this some kind of psychological warfare technique? Is she trying to make us underestimate her before revealing Earth's actual strategy? I don't know, Zyl'ax admitted, watching Patricia examine the arena entrance with the same critical eye his own grandmother had used when inspecting his childhood room. With humans, I never know. On the main floor, the first demonstration round began. The Vrix bone render, a creature of living calcium deposits and predatory intelligence, faced off against a Holvian depth stalker. The combat lasted 47 seconds and required 3 medical teams. The bone render was declared dominant. Its handlers barely managed to get it back into containment. Patricia watched with polite interest, the way someone might observe a particularly aggressive sports match they didn't fully understand. That seems excessive, she commented. Have they tried just teaching it better impulse control? The Salthani Void Screamer went next, demonstrating its ability to generate frequency attacks that could shatter crystalline bone structures. 2 security officers had to be treated for psychological trauma from the acoustic resonance. Patricia fished through her handbag and pulled out earplugs. I keep these for the grandchildren's band concerts, she explained to no one in particular. This is insane, muttered Vex'tor, a xenobiologist from the Thalri delegation who'd been recording all the demonstrations. She's either the most elaborate bluff in diplomatic history or what? Janira asked. Or we've fundamentally misunderstood what makes something an apex predator. Khor'vax was pacing now, his Vex'tor matching his agitation. This farce has continued long enough. Let the human demonstrate against a real predator. Let her face the Vex'tor and learn what true dominance means. Oh, I can go now, Patricia asked brightly, standing up from where she'd somehow found a chair. I was hoping to go second anyway. I needed to find my reading glasses. She held up the glasses case triumphantly. Found them. They were in the side pocket the whole time. Jotaro looked at Zyl'ax with an expression of pure desperation. Ambassador, I must formally ask, is Earth certain about this? Once she enters the arena with a predator, we cannot guarantee her safety. The Vex'tor has never been defeated. Its kill count across 10 millennia. I heard you the first time, dear, Patricia said, already walking toward the arena entrance, broom in one hand, handbag in the other. Now, does someone want to tell me where I'm going, or do I need to figure it out myself? Because I will, but it'll take longer, and I'd like to be home by Thursday. I have a book club meeting. Zyl'ax watched her disappear into the arena access corridor and felt his species equivalent of a cold sweat forming on his dorsal ridge. Recording all channels, he ordered quietly. If humanity has created an evolutionary advantage we've never encountered, the Council needs documentation. And if she's just a confused grandmother with a broom, Janira asked. Then we're about to witness the shortest diplomatic demonstration in challenge history, Zyl'ax said. Either way, this changes everything. The arena doors opened with a pneumatic hiss. Patricia Anderson stepped into the combat arena carrying a broom and a floral print handbag. Across from her, behind a shimmering containment field, the Krell'ix Vex'tor prowled, 12 feet of evolutionary perfection. Crystalline talons clicking against reinforced flooring, acid dripping from mandibles that could shear through starship hull plating. In the observation galleries, Khor'vax was laughing so hard his chest plates rattled. 10,000 years undefeated. Watch the human grandmother learn respect. Credits were changing hands rapidly. The betting pools heavily favored the Vex'tor, with odds ranging from immediate fatality to survives 15 seconds. Janira pulled up biometric readings on Patricia. Sir, her heart rate is completely normal. She's calmer than I am right now. Containment field dropping in 3, 2, 1. Jotaro's voice cracked slightly on the final count. The field dissolved. The Vex'tor charged with a shriek that triggered emergency audio dampeners across the station. 10,000 years of apex predator instinct focused into pure lethal intent. Talons extended, mandibles spread wide enough to engulf a human torso. Patricia looked up from adjusting her glasses. "Oh, for heaven's sake," she said, and swatted it with her broom. Not hard, just a firm tap on the snout, the kind of corrective swat you'd give a dog that jumped on the furniture. The Vex'tor stopped, just stopped, mid-charge, mid-shriek, every ounce of momentum somehow arrested as if it had hit an invisible wall. It sat down heavily on its hindquarters, talons retracting, mandibles closing. Its head lowered. It looked guilty. The silence in the arena was so complete that Zyl'ax could hear his own breathing membranes cycling. "What?" Khor'vax whispered. "What did she—" Patricia sighed, the exasperated sound of someone dealing with a particularly stubborn student, and reached into her handbag. She pulled out a sandwich wrapped in plastic wrap, carefully unwrapped it, and tore off a small piece of what appeared to be turkey and cheese. "Here," she said, holding it out. "For sitting nicely." The Vex'tor, apex predator of Krell'ix Prime, terror of 10 millennia, took the sandwich piece with surprising delicacy. It made a small chirping sound. "That's better," Patricia said, patting its head between the primary sensory organs. "See? You can be good when you try." The creature leaned into her touch. "Biological readings are—" "Impossible!" Vex'ia shouted from her monitoring station. "There's no pheromone cascade, no chemical markers, no frequency modulation. She shouldn't be able to. This violates 17 different models of predator-prey dynamics." Zyl'ax was already checking the arena systems with trembling hands. "Behavioral inhibitors?" "Offline, as per protocol," Jotaro confirmed, his voice hollow. "Neural dampeners." "Offline. Psionic suppressors." "We don't have those. The Vex'tor isn't psionic." "Then how—" "Challenge Master," Patricia called out, her voice carrying clearly despite not being particularly loud. "Are there more of these creatures? The demonstration seems rather short otherwise." Jotaro looked at Zyl'ax. Zyl'ax looked at Janira. Janira looked at anyone who might make this decision for her. "Protocol suggests," Jotaro began weakly. "Oh, just send them all in," Patricia said, waving her hand dismissively. "I don't have all day." What followed would be analyzed by xenobiologists for the next 3 decades. 5 more apex predators entered the arena simultaneously. The Vrix bone render, the Salthani void screamer, a Holvian depth stalker, a Grenthian rage beast, and something from the outer colonies that didn't have a name in any language the translators recognized. Patricia looked at them the way a teacher looks at students entering class after the bell. "Line up, please," she said, using her broom to gesture toward a spot on the arena floor. "Right here. That's it. No, not you." She pointed the broom at the bone render, which had started to circle. "You're over there. Don't make me ask twice." The bone render moved to where she'd indicated. "I don't believe this," breathed Khor'vax. The void screamer opened its resonance chambers, preparing the frequency attack that had traumatized security officers minutes earlier. Patricia pulled a small spray bottle from her handbag. "Don't even think about it," she said, showing it the bottle. "This is just water and vinegar for my plants, but I will use it if you test me." The void screamer's chambers snapped shut. It shuffled sideways into line. "What is happening?" Janira demanded, staring at the biometric readings flooding her console. "The predator's aggression hormones are plummeting. Stress responses are through the roof, but not defensive stress. It's like social correction anxiety," Vex'ia said, her voice distant with shock. "They're experiencing the psychological response to disappointing a pack authority figure. But that's impossible. None of these species share evolutionary lineage. They can't all respond to the same dominance markers." Patricia had organized all 6 apex predators into neat rows. She was walking between them, broom held like a pointer, occasionally correcting posture with gentle taps. "Sit up straight." "Yes, all the way. Good. Now, I expect you to stay in these positions until I say otherwise. Can everyone do that?" 6 of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures remained perfectly still. "What is she?" Khor'vax's voice had lost all its earlier bravado. "What did Earth send us?" Patricia pulled her sandwich back out and distributed small pieces to each creature as a reward for good behavior. The Vex'tor's tail, a crystalline appendage capable of piercing armor plating, was wagging. "I need xenopsychology teams here now," Zyl'ax said into his communicator, his voice shaking. "And someone get me a direct line to the Galactic Science Council. We're witnessing a phenomenon that shouldn't exist." In the arena, Patricia was adjusting her glasses and checking what appeared to be a small pocket watch. "Lovely," she said. "Now, is someone going to show me where that tea is? I've worked up quite a thirst." Behind her, 6 apex predators sat in perfect formation, waiting for her next instruction like the most well-behaved class in the galaxy. Vex'ia burst into the arena control room with 3 senior xenobiologists and enough scanning equipment to outfit a research vessel. Her hands were shaking as she calibrated the sensors. "Run full-spectrum analysis," she ordered. "Pheromone cascade, electromagnetic variance, quantum entanglement markers, everything we have." The scans painted the air around Patricia with holographic data streams. Vex'ia stared at the results, then ran them again and again. "This can't be right," she whispered. "What is it?" Zyl'ax demanded. "What is she doing to them?" "Nothing. Everything. I don't—" Vex'ia pulled up a comparison chart. "She's not emitting pheromones. There's no chemical communication, no frequency modulation, but there's something, a pattern in how she moves, speaks, makes eye contact. It's like—" She struggled for words. "It's intentional authority. She's projecting social dominance through pure behavioral cues that trigger submissive responses in pack-oriented species." "That's impossible," Jotaro said. "These species evolved on different worlds, different evolutionary trees." "That's what makes it terrifying," Vex'ia interrupted. "She's exploiting universal constants in social behavior. Any creature that evolved cooperative survival strategies has built-in responses to authority figures who enforce group cohesion. Humans didn't just develop this, they weaponized it." On the main display, Patricia was demonstrating with the Vex'tor again. She'd made it sit, then given it a disapproving look when it tried to stand too early. "Stay," she said firmly. The creature wouldn't even make eye contact with her. Its entire posture radiated shame. "It can feel her disappointment," Vex'ia breathed. "She's not threatening it. She's making it feel like it's let her down. That's so much worse than fear." "How?" Khor'vax's voice cracked. He'd descended from the observation gallery and stood at the arena barrier, staring at his supposedly undefeatable predator acting like a scolded child. "How is this possible?" Patricia noticed him and walked over, 6 apex predators trailing behind her in orderly single file. "It's really quite simple, dear," she said. "You just have to be firm and consistent, set clear boundaries, follow through on consequences, and most importantly," she fixed Khor'vax with a steady gaze, "you have to mean it. Children and animals both know when you're bluffing." "But these aren't children. They're apex predators." "Oh, sweetie," Patricia said, and somehow made it sound both kind and devastating. "Raising children is managing apex predators. Human young are born completely helpless, remain dependent for years, and go through a phase around age 13 where they're convinced they're invincible and everything you say is wrong." She adjusted her glasses. "You learn certain skills when your evolutionary survival depends on keeping your offspring alive despite their best efforts to the contrary." Zyl'ax felt something fundamental shift in his understanding of human evolution. "You mean, human grandmothers are—" "Evolutionary enforcement mechanisms," Vex'ia finished, her voice hollow. "They don't dominate through violence. They've evolved social and emotional conditioning so effective it works on species they've never even encountered before. They're exploiting universal pack behavior constants that exist because of convergent evolution across the galaxy." "This is unacceptable," Khor'vax roared, slamming his fist against the barrier again. I demand a rematch. There must be. Patricia turned and looked at him. Not said anything, not made any threatening gesture. Just looked. Khor'vax's words died in his throat. His chest plates seemed to deflate slightly. His eyes, all four of them, dropped to the floor. I apologize, he said, and the shock in his own voice suggested he hadn't planned to say that. That was inappropriate of me. Thank you, Patricia said, still using that same patient but disappointed tone. I appreciate you recognizing that. Khor'vax nodded, still not making eye contact, and stepped back. His second-in-command leaned over and whispered, "Why did you apologize? She's just... I don't know," Khor'vax admitted quietly. "But I felt like I'd done something wrong, and I needed to make it right." In the control room, the council representatives were having an emergency consultation. "She affects even trained warriors," the Vex'tor delegate noted. "The psychological impact crosses all species barriers." "Is she a weapon?" asked the Salthani representative. "Should she be classified as a threat?" "Is she a diplomat?" countered another. "This could revolutionize conflict resolution." "Is she a safety hazard that needs containment protocols?" Zyl'ax watched Patricia distribute more sandwich pieces to her perfectly behaved collection of apex predators and felt exhaustion wash over him. "She's a grandmother with a broom who came here because her government asked her to, and she's completely rewritten our understanding of dominance hierarchies in the last 20 minutes. "The challenge vote," Jotaro said quietly. "We need to declare a winner." The vote was unanimous. Earth's demonstration had dominated every other entry so completely that several species withdrew their apex predators from future rounds out of sheer embarrassment. "Mrs. Anderson," Zyl'ax announced through the arena speakers, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I declare Earth the victor of this year's Intergalactic Diplomacy Challenge." "Oh, wonderful," Patricia said brightly. "Does this mean we can get lunch now? I skipped breakfast and I'm absolutely famished." "There's a formal ceremony," Jotaro began, "with speeches and—" "Can we do speeches after lunch?" Patricia interrupted. "I get cranky when my blood sugar's low and nobody wants that." In the observation gallery, every species representative nodded agreement with surprising enthusiasm. "Lunch first," Zyl'ax said quickly. "Speeches later." "Much later," Patricia beamed. "Lovely! Oh, and someone should probably feed these creatures too." She gestured to the 6 apex predators sitting attentively behind her. "They've been very good, and good behavior should be rewarded." "I'll arrange that," Janira said faintly. As Patricia headed toward the exit, the Vex'tor started to follow her. She turned, gave it a look, and pointed back to its containment area. "Stay," she said. It stayed, watching her leave with what could only be described as longing. Khor'vax stared at his people's greatest predator, reduced to waiting for permission from a human grandmother. "We were never the apex species," he said quietly. "We just never met humanity's grandmothers." The emergency council session convened 4 hours after Patricia's demonstration. Though session was generous, it was more like controlled chaos with official documentation. "We need to establish protocols," Station Commander R. Hill announced, his crystalline carapace flickering with stress patterns. "What just happened cannot be classified under existing frameworks." "The grandmother protocol," Vex'tor suggested, still reviewing her impossible scan data. "We need a new diplomatic classification for human entities who can dominance condition apex predators through social authority." "Seconded," said at least a dozen delegates simultaneously. Meanwhile, Patricia was being given a tour of the station by Janira, who'd volunteered mainly because everyone else was too terrified. Except delegation after delegation kept accidentally encountering them in corridors, each representative desperate to meet the human who'd revolutionized their understanding of behavioral dominance. The Vex'tor ambassador approached with all appropriate diplomatic formality, began his prepared greeting, and somehow found himself apologizing for his delegation's earlier laughter, which Patricia hadn't even seemed to notice. That's quite all right, dear, Patricia said, patting his chitinous arm. I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it. The ambassador left looking deeply confused about why he felt better. She's treating galactic leaders like former students, Janira whispered to Zyl'ax over comms. The Sultani defense minister just apologized for something that happened before Patricia even arrived on station. New security classification, Arhil announced, his voice carrying the weight of someone making history. Grandmother-level entities are hereby granted special diplomatic status. They're not weapons, not exactly diplomats, but something the galaxy has never encountered. Evolutionary specialists in social dominance through emotional conditioning. Earth's delegation sent over Patricia's background file, Janira added, pulling up the data. She volunteered for this because her grandson told her it would be cool. She mainly wanted the travel opportunity and, I'm reading this correctly, free meals and maybe some nice photos for her scrapbook. The council chamber fell silent. She rewrote our understanding of behavioral psychology, Vex'tor said slowly, because she wanted vacation photos? Humans, Zyl'ax muttered, which had become the unofficial explanation for anything incomprehensible. There's more, Janira continued. The Council is receiving formal requests from 18 different species asking if Earth would be willing to loan out human grandmothers as conflict resolution specialists. In the station's secondary arena, now hastily redesignated as a behavioral training facility, Patricia had organized all 6 apex predators into what she called a proper behavior training program. The creatures sat in neat rows, waiting for treats. They responded to voice commands. The Vrix bone render had learned to shake hands with one of its calcium deposits. The Void Screamer only used its resonance chambers when Patricia gave permission, and the Krell'ix Vex'tor refused to leave Patricia's side. Mittens seems to have taken quite a shine to me, Patricia commented, scratching the creature behind what might have been its ears. Khor'vax, watching from the observation area, made a sound like a dying star collapsing. She named it Mittens, he said hollowly, the apex predator of Krellix Prime, undefeated for 10,000 years. Mittens. I think it's sweet, Patricia called up to him. He's really very affectionate once you get past the aggression issues. It's a planet-killing biological weapon, Khor'vax whispered. He's a good boy who needed proper socialization, Patricia corrected. Aren't you, Mittens? Yes, you are. Mittens, formerly the Vex'tor, made a pleased chirping sound and leaned into her touch. Zyl'ax was in his office, rewriting first contact protocols for the 3rd time, when Patricia knocked on his door. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said, but I wanted to let you know I'll be heading home tomorrow. Before I go, though, do any of you need help with your children? Young ones can be such a handful, and I'm here anyway. Within 15 minutes, 17 species had requested consultation appointments. Patricia pulled a small appointment calendar from her handbag, the physical kind, with actual paper, and began penciling in times. Now I'll need to be home by Thursday, she said. I have bingo night, and I never miss it, but I can fit in, let's see, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, and evening. Mrs. Anderson, the Sultani representative said hesitantly, we're experiencing a sector-wide youth rebellion. Our adolescent populations are refusing traditional role assignments and, have you tried just talking to them? Patricia asked, not looking up from her calendar. Not at them, to them, about what they actually want. The representative blinked all 6 eyes. No, that's not standard protocol for... Well, there's your problem right there, Patricia said matter of fact. Children need to be heard, not just managed. They're not malfunctioning adults. They're developing people with their own thoughts. She penciled something in. I can meet with your youth council Tuesday at 2. We'll sort it out. Around the room, council members were taking frantic notes. The next morning, Patricia stood at the shuttle bay with her broom, her handbag, and Mittens sitting attentively at her side. You're taking the Vex'tor? Zyl'ax asked, trying to keep the panic from his voice. "Oh, he's coming home with me," Patricia said cheerfully. "My grandson will be thrilled. We have a big backyard." Khor'vax made that dying star sound again. "Mrs. Anderson," Zyl'ax began carefully, "before you go, how would you compare this experience to your normal life?" Patricia considered this as she boarded the shuttle. "It was nice," she said. "Educational. The food was decent, though the tea could use improvement." She settled into her seat and pulled out knitting needles and yarn. "But honestly, nothing compared to parent-teacher conferences. Those could get really intense." As the shuttle departed, the last transmission showed Patricia knitting peacefully, a cup of tea on the armrest beside her, while Mittens, apex predator of Krell'ix Prime, terror of 10 millennia, slept curled at her feet like an oversized house cat. In the council chamber, Zyl'ax looked at his revised first contact protocols, then at the 17 consultation requests Patricia had scheduled, then at the formal proposals for grandmother exchange programs already flooding in from across the galaxy. "Humanity," he said again, but this time it sounded almost fond. "They send us their grandmothers, and will never be the same." "Sir," Janira said, pulling up a new communication, "Earth is asking if we'd like to attend something called Career Day at a middle school next month. They think it would be good cultural exchange." Zyl'ax thought about 30 human 13-year-olds in one room, all of them convinced they knew better than any adult. "Approved," he said. "If we're going to share a galaxy with
humanity, we might as well understand what their grandmothers are preparing for." From her shuttle, now entering FTL transit, Patricia smiled and continued her knitting. She'd have to make Mittens a nice blanket for the backyard. Maybe something in blue. Behind her, the greatest apex predator the Krell'ix had ever produced snored softly, dreaming of sandwich pieces and head scratches. The galaxy would never be quite the same. The end.